right, so this was our booth build for Gen Con 2025. It started off actually as a 2-foot by 3-foot build for a Builder's Masterclass, but we ran out of time, so I turned it into a display build for the booth. So here I'm trying to do elevation. I wanted to make a cool covered bridge using our new Tudor pieces. And then I wanted to do like a stable and cottage in the foreground, showing off the new banks, the new roads, some of the new Tudor pieces, figuring out how to transition from that up to an raised area in the back. So using urban elevation to get us up there, showcasing a lot of the banks. I figured I was going to have a building up there, but that idea changed. Then I wanted to make a little entrance, a dock, sort of an area you could bring supplies in to get underneath the building that I was going to build over here. There's a chance to use our docks and our other bits. Now I decided to turn it into the full build, so I built out the side. I didn't know what I was going to have over here, but I knew I needed to have a cave and some cool elevation. Once again, do elevation, raise up especially that back area so people could see it as they're walking around the booth. And I knew I wanted to have a dungeon area in that foreground, in that big open dark area, and cave in the lower. So I started working on the dungeon area. I needed to have light in there so it would draw people's eye. It's a fun thing to look down and discover, especially it's at kid height, so they can discover. So I'm using a light puck inside the dread pedestal as the central thing that would draw a lot of eyes. Then I was going to bake in a lot of other LEDs. And I'm building a lot of stuff double high, so it's big enough so you can kind of see the depth in there, and then test it out, put a battle board over it, test it out, see how it looks. Keep fiddling, making sure like kind of you get it when you look in there, you can see enough of the details and there's enough sense of depth. This is kind of a sense of what it would look like when it's done. Then I started working on the cave area. That was going to be under the far right, using our crystal caverns pieces because those are really glowy. A lot of stalagmites and stalactites in the foreground, so there's a good sense of depth. Now I figured I started working on the above the cave. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but it turned out I wanted to make a fort. So I was using first our freestanding walls, and then that turned into using scaffolding to build some walls, which is a neat technique I show off in one of our compatibility videos. You can see that. And then just using our rustic wood to try and make a fortified structure. It's really, I really enjoy making fortified structures, especially with some variety. That one in the lower right is, or the upper right, is using 4 diagonals turned sideways, so like it makes like an octagonal base, and then it has a 4x4 on top. It works out really well. The gates using their double highs, and then roofing everything. And then in this foreground, doing another tower, and at the top, extending it out with those diagonals to give it the overhang, to make it look super defensible and fortified with a cool little crow's nest on top. I love crow's nest areas, right? Going up high and having an area to go up to, a destination, a reason to go up high. Like maybe because as a kid I always wanted to you climb up a mountain and want to see really far. It's kind of fun. Then I figured I wanted to have a little bit of castle tower in there, a really fortified keep area, so I started roughing that out in the right. And then I realized I wanted it to be higher, so I did another level of elevation in there. So we're at the 4th level of escarpments, I think, to get that on, to just get it up even higher, right? Just try and go up vertical and get those towering heights. And then I roughed in everything. I haven't sort of finalized what's on the tower, but I just knew I needed the shape of a tower there, and I could build it around it, and then trying to work on the rest of the buildings around. It's a lot of sort of circling around, contemplating, looking at it from the front, and building it from the back, trying to figure out what people's experience will be as they walk by the booth and what they will see, having enough layers and stuff for them to see visually, whether they're looking at the foreground, the midground, or the background. And trying to give each of these buildings some character and make them feel really fortified and defensible, right? You want to see a story. When you look at this, you're like, ooh, that would be a cool fort to attack or to defend, or what's the story there? And trying to work out these multi-level height walls, because we're working all these different levels of escarpments and elevation in there. All right, so now I'm working on the big, this is like the house on the hill. And the idea here was, this is kind of like, it was originally going to be like a Barovian manor, so kind of a creepy gothic manor. And I wanted to showcase a mixture of, I wanted to use our stone on the bottom, and then a mixture of rustic wood and Tudor up above. So I started with just, once again, trying to rough in a footprint, get an idea. I don't put all the walls in, just looking for what's the coolest shape that's going to work. And then I start putting the walls in and working. I got the base layer down. I'm using some of the urban elevation and our fieldstone down there. Now I'm going up to the next level, mostly rustic wood, but I'm trying to work in a bunch of the new Tudor because it's really fun getting to mix the Tudor and the rustic wood. We have so many cool shapes. Right, I was trying to have every side of this building look different and interesting, lots of overhangs, lots of really interesting angles, and showcase just all the variety that we have here, as well as showcase how the modular roofs work. Right, we have so many options with the modular roofs, and then just kept fiddling with it. Right, I'm just fiddling with the details. Right, is it an overhang? Is it a balcony? What kind of roof? Do we have an up and play area? And then I got that roofed in, so I moved over to this village area. So this idea here for this leg of the build was this was going to be a showcase of our brand new Tudor villages. So I wanted it to be warm and inviting and colorful. So we're using the terrain trays as a base, our new dirt road terrain trays. We're using the grass banks on top of the escarpments to sort of brighten everything up, and then do a bunch of buildings that show what the new Tudor can do. So this building in the back was going to be a big arched archway. I wanted to have something for the wagon to come under. It was inspired by the Builder's Masterclass building I did, but a little simpler and just all Tudor, right? Trying to just show all the new Tudor bits, and then a couple of smaller cottages up front. We threw the well in there, and it was just a vehicle to show all the options we have for Tudor, including the new magnetic ivy. And by doing a village, it's a really great excuse to put in a lot of miniatures and a lot of dressing and carts and wagons and sort of all the trappings of humanity. I love all those little details, stuff that tends to spark a lot of story ideas for people when they see it. And then putting lots of ivy all over everything, right? Lots of greenery, lots of plants, lots of color. Levels high of escarpments. Now I get to go start finishing out this building. I kind of roughed everything in, but hadn't finalized any of them. So I'm putting in our window panes in all these windows so we can show off the new stained glass window panes and magnetic accessories, making sure all the walls are kind of the right walls, trying to show off a lot of the new pieces and give it a little character, right? Just what are those final little details that can show people a nice range of the things we do and kind of make them excited they didn't see this piece before, or showing all the little artistry. So putting all these little details in really counts. All right, and continuing around, just populating the village, putting in all the little plants, finalizing the details of the roofs, making sure we can show as much variety as possible, all the tiny little pieces that we agonize over, the tiny little things that get people excited. It's those little details. I mean, I've said it 100 times, but it really is true. Like all those little details really, it's the stuff that gets people's attention, to show them our attention to detail and our artistry. I gotta get the boat in there. I end up putting 2 boats in here because it's so fun, right? It's such an adventure waiting to happen, and all the little bits of gear. This is really always the fun part, is putting all the final touches in, because that's when you can really sell a story. Now I'm back to the tower. I kind of jump around all around, just sort of where inspiration strikes, I'm working on that. So I'm just messing with the tower to try and get the right combination of walls and floors and balconies and LED bits and whatnot. I got the tower in a pretty good place, and so now I'm just working on putting accessories in, details, giving character, making sure each area has kind of a purpose, has some character, has something that makes it different from the rest. I swapped out the crow's nest for those lit beacons on top of the fort because I felt like that told a better story. Maybe it's a lookout. Those beacons, like the beacons of Gondor, is something someone sees from a distance, and then just popping in little bits, elevated bridges and walkways and stuff. So there's trying to imply different layers, vertical dynamic combat and the like, and just different layers to different people at different heights get to see different stuff. Working on the trees and rocks and all the plants, putting all the little plants in the pieces of personality I love. It's so fun. And this is the final build in the booth at Gen Con. This is one of the mornings right before we open, and you can kind of see the final thing in all its glory and grandeur, with all of our details in there, all the little accessories in place, all the miniatures in place, everything in there. And the whole goal here is just trying to spark a story for people, right? We want them to see this and get excited for the sorts of adventures they could have on their tabletop, or excited to just go write a story, inspired to play, inspired to just build and have fun. I think it worked out really well and was certainly having that effect. People were looking at it with wonder, taking in all the details. The miniatures really help sell the story. Kobolds are storming the gates, and this fort looks really fortified, and there's all these fun discovery areas, right? These lower areas, kids were going nuts to see stuff in there. So it's really fun to get to show this stuff off at a convention, get to see it with fresh eyes, where people come in and take in all the details and the beauty and the artistry and the detail, and get to see what we do and bring some smiles to people's faces. Hope this inspires you.